people, people who need people are the luckiest people in the world. And I've got you. I've got all of you. Gee, but I'm lucky. And as they would sing on Soul Train, I got a crush on you. God bless. Thank you.
He and announcer Bing Whitaker sat down in an unadorned TV studio after a rather festive dinner. The Duke at the piano, with his bass player John Lamb and his drummer Sam Woodyard in place. Also present was David Klimpton, a CBC graphics artist who did some sketches of Duke. Patty Sampson, the producer and director of the show, just let his cameras record the action. What emerged was a fascinating, informal portrait of the man who left his stamp on American music as vividly as Picasso did on painting or Steinbeck on literature. This informal rap session, liberally sprinkled with the Duke's playing, didn't air until 10 years later when Duke Ellington died. Here's the Duke, gracious, eloquent, witty, sometimes elusive, but above all, gifted.
What tune have you written which you think is the best?
Oh, the one coming up tomorrow. Always.
All right, put it this way, make it commercial. What one has made you the most money?
Oh, I never look at money.
I noticed that tonight when you had dinner, you didn't pick up the check.
Hey, yeah, what did it happen? Whatever happened to the check tonight?
Like it
Well, you know what I mean. I was in your place in the Celebrity Club, and I didn't want to put you in a peculiar spot.
No,
and I would thought that it might be a breach of good taste or being a rather rude guest.
Yes, I know.
You know, I mean, to reach for the check, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody even showed me a pencil. I didn't even get a chance to sign it. Anything, you know.
Well, after all, we in Canada are considered to have good manners, sir.
But this I'm very much aware of, and this I didn't want to breach. You know,
I know.
The
When it
worst
comes to
thing that
money
can happen
particularly.
is to offer to pay the check when you're invited.
Oh?
That may offend someone.
I invited you for tomorrow night, not for the night.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll tell you.
There's the Duke Ellington band of some years ago. Duke, what is your reaction to this?
Hey, look at that piano player, man. That's it. That's it. There's the brass section there. Who's that? That's Tricky Teasel.
Who is that?
The sweet singing drummer, Sonny Greer. That's Wellman Bro. That's Harry Carney.
Still with the band?
Oh, yes. 1930. I was 10 years old that year. See?
Had more hair.
Freddie
though.
Jenkins, take this. He's a left-handed trumpet player. This kid. Watch that form with this kid. Hey, that's it, man. Yeah. Oh, look at it. Wasn't I a polite young man, 10 years old?
Oh, yes. And that was in 1930.
Yeah.
How polite were you, say, 20 years before that?
20 years before that? Well, let me see. Oh, that's way back. Oh. No, if I was...
Watch it, dude, so play something I know.
If I was 10 then, 20 years before then, why, you know. I was only a plan.
Well, I have heard, and I don't
Not even
believe
a
it.
blueprint.
I have heard that you composed your first composition when you were just a bit over 10, when you were still going to school. And it was something about a soda fountain, and I don't think you've been in one since.
Oh, yes, of
Do you
course.
remember how it went?
The soda fountain rang? Sure. You're welcome. Yes, let's do that.
How did you
I
happen?
can't play it anymore. It's too hard. You see, what happened was that when I was a kid, I became interested in this jazz and ragtime bit, and I got to try to get a lot of people to teach me what they were doing around Washington, but I never could learn anything anybody taught me, and so I was sick and had to stay in the house for a couple of weeks, and I finally came up with this under my hand. So I mean, sort of learning to play the piano and composing, as you might call it, after a fashion, if this is composing, all came at one time.
When did you get around to being interested in the piano?
Oh, I began to get interested in when I first went to high school. I was about 14. Oh, because before then, of course, I had piano lessons like all kids do, you know, the scales, and I learned enough to play one half of the piano at the church recital when the teacher.
So the right hand half.
I think I was at the left hand. The teacher, Miss Clinkscale, played the upper half of the piano.
Well, that's.
She took the major responsibility, actually. You know.
And what did you do after Soda Fountain Rag?
Oh, a thing called What You Gonna Do When the Bed Breaks Down. This became very popular locally.
How did it go?
Washington, they used to dance on the afterbeat, you know. Well, they used to dance. Well, give them the afterbeat now. No, this is just the afterbeat. Polysocial music. With 10,000 repeats on this part, you know. And the kids are still rocking, you know.
What's basically wrong with the afterbeat? Because I always danced on the afterbeat when I was young and athletic.
Well, yeah, but you swing, you know. You're a swinger. You can't help that being, after all. You know.
Duke, what about, lots of people know this, but some people might not. What about where you were born and so on, etc.?
I was born? Oh, I have this, that's in the show, you know. There's a song being sung in the show, you know, called Heritage. And this is my song. This is, this has to do with me, you know. And it's done, you know, well, you know. How's it go? Let's see. That's not even right. What am I doing? My mother, the greatest and the prettiest. My father, just handsome, but the wittiest. My granddaddy, natural, to the bone proud. Grandma, so gentle, so fine. The men before them worked hard and sang loud about the beautiful women in this family of mine. My homestead, the warmest hospitality. In me you see, you see the least of the family tree. Personality, because I was born, or raised rather, in the palm of the hand by the very best people in this land. Oh, terrible. Land from sun to sun, their hearts beat as one. My mother, my father, and love. I should learn it, don't I, shouldn't I? That's everybody's song. Everybody feels the same way about it.
That's right. How old were you, Duke, when you had your first orchestra?
First orchestra? Well, let's see. I first started to, well, actually, you see, I was in Washington, and when I was a kid, and when my repertoire got up to about 4 or 5 numbers, I think I was working, you know, like in the number 5 band of Louis Thomas, who was the competitor of Maya Davis in Washington with all the society work and the diplomatic people. And I got very smart one day, and you know, the guy would send me on a job and say, well, collect $100 and bring me 90. You know, you might get to 10. And I said, well, this is a pretty good business. I think I'll go into it. So they had their ad in the telephone book, you know, and so I decided to put my ad in the telephone book. And so there were 3 music ads. And during this time, of course, it was during World War I, and a lot of people from out of town, and so my ad was as big as anybody else's, and so I began to get work, and I was sending out bands, too. I was a pretty good businessman then, 17, 18 years old.
Aren't you now?
Business? No, nobody who was a good businessman would go into the band business and stay in it 52 weeks a year.
Well,
It's a good way to make money if you go in and stay for 6 months and go out for 6 months, something like that.
What do you think of business as a whole? You were mentioning earlier about painting.
Painting? Oh, yes, I was supposed to have been a painter. That was my first recognized talent. I was good. I did. I see some of my things I did years ago. They're pretty good. And, but as I said, you know, I won a scholarship in Fine Art Institute, but I never got around to taking advantage of it. You see, what happened is when I got sick that time and was confined to the house for a couple of weeks and learned to play the piano, this was it, you know. This took me away from my painting. Well, not directly away from my painting right away, because I was a sign painter. And when people would come to buy their music, I'd say, well, who's painting the sign to advertise the dance, you know? And they'd say, well, I'd say, well, I'll paint the sign, you know? And so I get the paint. And if they came to me to get the signs painted for a dance, I'd say, well, who's playing the music, you know? And I get the ones. I was a good businessman. And then, of course, I got mixed up in music, but, oh, no. Oh, you didn't say anything about athletics. I always think about athletics when I say, you're such a great athlete. You were asking me a while ago about my athletic aspirations. I was a good athlete, you know. And then it got around that I was playing the piano, and then, of course, when you play the piano, I mean, you get exposed to the ladies, you know,
yes.
Girls, and you become aware of them, and of course they become aware of you. And after that, why, you know, you just sort of move away from athletics.
Sort of, shall we say, wore yourself out on the keyboard.
Well, yes, you know. And a lot of people think I got bags under my eyes, you know, writing music late at night. But it's not really true.
Well, now, you were something of a gourmet and a cook. And merely briefly changing the subject. You're something of a gourmet and a cook.
I didn't finish telling you about the bags under the eyes. No, actually, what the bags under the eyes are, that's an accumulation of virtues.
It is. Tell us the story of the traveling in the early days with the Pullman and so on.
Of the Pullman? Oh, you mean when we used to go down in the Deep South?
Mm.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we sort of figured that, you know, there was some question about the, you know, living quarters, because I've always hated to live in people's houses because I'm somewhat of a nuisance with the telephone and all that, and people are liable to be awakened at all hours. And any other type of accommodation were sort of questionable in a way in those days, you know. And so in order to solve several problems at once, I mean, what we would do was engage, or charter rather, 2 sleeping cars, 2 Pullmans. And the way we would do it is that we would order 19 lowers and 2 drawing rooms. And in that way, that's the only way you can get, you know, and in that way you automatically get 2 cars to yourself, and there was lots of lounging room, and then we had a 70-foot baggage car also. And then, of course, when we would go down south, I mean, the 3 cars would be put in a parking space in the station, usually on the last track, where they, you know, where they park the private cars. And it turned out to be a great thing because it was a very good symbol, more or less, I would say. Because, you know, I mean, what the president travels around in private cars the same way. So I imagine they just figured it was, you know, it had to be something of some importance, and I think commanded a certain amount of respect. And, you know, we respect everybody else, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. And it was very comfortable because they parked the cars, you know, on hot water and steam, sanitation, ice, you know, and you have 2 Pullman Kubotas and all that going on. And it turned out very well. We went all over the whole South that way.
Incidentally, there's one thing although I've known you for a long time, there's one thing I've never known. Who tagged the name Duke on you?
Oh, a schoolmate of mine, Edgar McEntry. He was a boyhood pal of mine. We used to travel around a lot together through high school. And he was a pretty elegant cat, you know. He was a swinger of his day, actually. And he was very well dressed, you know. And I'm naturally the sloppy type, you know. But then I had to keep up with him, you know. So I began to tag on little things of, you know, dressing and so on. And I think he felt that in order for me to be eligible for his constant companionship, that I should have a title. And so with that, he called me Duke. And it sort of stayed there. And now, people, I don't know, people who don't know, I mean, there was the other day somewhere, what was it? It was Duke Wellington, Duke of Wellington. You know? He was in London one time, and what is it, one of those London cab drivers, and the guy got on and says, you know who that is? That's Duke Ellington. And this cat turned around, the cab driver turned around and said, well, I thought he'd been dead for years, you know.
What year did you write the first theme you used with the Washingtonians was what?
The theme?
Yeah.
East St. Louis Total?
It was, you used that very first, did you?
Yeah, that was our first, well, radio theme, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, John, let's give this a little. You have to play the bass. You're calling everything tonight that I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, it's because I'm as old as you are, almost.
Yes, of course. I mean, in a way, I mean, there's so many ages. How do you figure that out? Let's see,
well, there's one,
chronological age,
four.
the mental age, the age of appreciation, the age of experience, Well, go
Now,
ahead. I gave 4.
All right, speaking of that, and there's then the age of senility, which makes 5. You've been quoted as saying that you write the music of your people as it sounds to you.
Mm.
Now, would you like to expound on that a little bit?
My people. Oh, my people. What can I tell you about my people? Gee, I'm glad you're recording this. I want to hear it later. The music of my people is what? It has to do with the, what? Now, what is that? Now, that's a strange question. You know, I was afraid you were going to do this, get me out here on this tape and expose me to my own ignorance or something. Let's see, my people. Now, which of my people? I mean, you know, I'm in several groups. You know, I'm in. Let's see, I'm in the group of the piano players. I'm in the group of the listeners. I'm in the groups of people who have general appreciation of music. I'm in the group of those who aspire to be dilettantes. I'm in the group of those who attempt to produce something fit for the plateau. I'm in the group of what? Oh, yeah, those who appreciate Beaujolais. Well, and then, of course, I'm in the, of course, I've had such a strong influence by the music of the people. The people, that's the better word, the people rather than my people, because the people are my people. The people, and that is people. First of all, you have to be a people. And then you run into some dangerous category or some dangerous category, yeah, that's right, where they have categories. And then you know, you run into trouble. The music, I mean, you know, you go further and further back in the music that I have become a part of. I mean, it's strongly American Negro. Now, this is separated from the African Negro music, you know. There's a lot of difference. I mean, the African Negro music is so sophisticated that nobody can dig it but them. You know, nobody can duplicate it. And it is the most sophisticated rhythm in the world, you know. And people have had a tendency to say that it's in 3, it's in 6, and all that sort of thing. It's out there somewhere, but nobody seems to know. What they're doing is specific, and they know exactly what they're doing. And nobody's been able to unravel it or decode it or whatever you call it. But the American Negro music is entirely different because it's got so many other influences in it. And it's been, what have they done? They've absorbed. You have so many different types of American music. For instance, you go back into the piano playing or the early, what they call jazz or ragtime era, at the same time when the music which is so heralded and so much talked about as being the original jazz music of New Orleans in the houses of ill repute and all that sort of thing, which of course is the thing, is the little romantic story. You know, there's so many little romantic stories that go with the origins of things. And this, of course, has been the most harmful to the music which so many of us live in, which has to do with freedom of expression, which is, of course, the only thing that's important. Here, we indulge ourselves in freedom of expression. This is the only thing that's common in any of the music that has come out of America, and that is freedom of expression. You take the guys who played the music 50 years ago in New Orleans and all that sort of thing. They were playing what they wanted to play in spite of their capabilities or what they had learned or their academic background and all that. And you take a man who comes out of the conservatory today, you know, he spends 10 years and all that sort of thing, he prepares himself, and the only difference between him and the man who came out of the conservatory 30 years ago is that he does at least have a chance of hearing his music, because, you know, anyone on this continent who wrote anything 50 years ago could never hear it played by a symphony or anything like that. But now, of course, they can. But the guy who comes out and decides not to become a professor in a conservatory, he decides not to go to the studios to become a musician or write for pictures and television, that sort of thing, or he decides not to, what's the other one? Something else they can do. Oh, belong to or write the serious, contemporary, serious music, and decides to come into jazz. The thing that he has in common with those kids in the back years ago is that he has freedom of expression of employing what he is equipped with. That he has mastered all the devices of the masters, and he can use all of this in freedom of expression. It's this difference between building, the same as building 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, building a log cabin. And today you go to the hardware store and you buy aluminum strips and you build a house. The same thing, I would say. Or steel. I'm not being partial, and this is not a commercial.
How would you compare...
plastic, I'm sorry.
Plastic. How would you compare the music you write with, say, some of the stuff that Bernstein is currently doing and has...
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he has his aim, and the thing of it is that he's doing what he wants to do. And this is the most important thing of it, freedom of expression.
Yeah, but there's got to be surely a purpose behind this freedom of expression. The freedom of expression is available. So now the person has the idea. Well, where did you get your ideas from?
Your ideas? Oh, man, I got a million dreams. That's all I do is dream all the time.
I thought you played piano.
No, this is not piano. This is dreaming.
Sophisticated lady, because I heard
sophisticated lady.
First night you broadcast.
Well, that's a composite thing of some girls I knew in Washington who were school teachers. Naturally, you know, they had their college degrees and all that, and they usually weekended in the various cities in the States and went to Europe for the summer. So that made them automatically traveled and learned, or learned and traveled. And so it's, you know, just sort of taking the definition of the word and contriving. It took me a long time to write it. I think it took longer to write that tune than any tune I ever had in my life. I think it took about 30 days. I'd keep debating and changing my mind about where I wanted to go. I'd get to someplace like I could even get to... debate now whether to go here. Or you get to stay right on. I don't know where I would have gone. a good piano. Well, I don't mind if they give it to me. It's all right. I'll accept it. Hey, John, you take the brig. Go ahead, I like this. Good. Keep on, you got it. Hey, do that again. What's that you're doing? Make that sound again. What were you doing? Do that again. Make that same sound. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, keep on doing it. Keep on doing it.
It jumps back a long way, but what do you think of about the Cotton Club days?
Cotton, that's before my time.
Well, I know you were only a child of 5, and your mother took you there. I realize that, but
The Cotton Club. Let's see. What happened there? Oh, yes, I remember. We were playing... We had a 5 or 6-piece band. And we were playing over in Philadelphia at the Standard Theater. Sam, you've been to the Standard Theater on South Street, haven't you? Very popular neighborhood theater, you know. Well, they used to have vaudeville, and they had a review there, and we were playing the review. And we were supposed to open the Cotton Club. Oh, the first thing that happened was the way we got into it. I'm jumping ahead of that. Was they were having auditions for a band to go in the Cotton Club, you know, and about 5 or 6 bands were supposed to audition. And I think the audition was set for noon. And when we got there, about 2 o'clock, everybody else had auditioned and gone home. No thanks. And so we went on with our audition, and when we got through, the man said, "You're hired," you know. I said, "Well, fine," you know. And with that, why, I later discovered that the man who said that was the big boss, and he wasn't there when the other guys were there. He only heard us. So, and then, you know, some of the fellows around there didn't have very high hopes for our staying there. The waiters were giving odds on us getting thrown out after 3 or 4 days or something like that. And we stayed there 5 years. And came out, and we did that Amos Nandy picture. In 30, in 31 came Mood Indigo, and in 32 came It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. In 1933 came Sophisticated Lady. In 1934, In a Sentimental Mood. In 35, Solitude. In 36, something turned up pretty good for us, I forget. And in 1937, 1937, what? That was a pretty good year. We did Prelude to Kiss Caravan. 1938, I Got a Song Right in My Heart was in the show at the Cotton Club downtown. And they threw it out of the show. And they put in a thing called, What was it, Sam? Oh. I'm sorry. Swing Time in Honolulu, yeah. Made a better production of it, but this never showed up. And that's on along, you know. 39, Net of a Little Lament, which came, it turned out to be Don't Get Around Much Anymore. And in 41, we did, along there somewhere was Boy Meets Horn, which did pretty good. And in 41, we did Jump for Joy, the show, you know, out on the coast with the social significance theme.
In 42, you were in the Hurricane Club.
No, 43 was the Hurricane. Was in there, yeah. And then there was Don't Get Around Much Anymore, Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me, Don't You Know I Care, I'm Just a Lucky So-and-so, and a long string of them.
Why don't you go through them?
Well, like what? Let me see. Oh, Don't You Know I Care?
No, I tell you what you didn't include in there.
Huh?
Which I've always liked, and you probably don't. The Sky Fell Down. As I like the title, because I knew you took it from a nursery rhyme.
hands up.
That's wrong. When you walk down the street?
Huh?
Do you feel that way when you walk down the street?
Huh?
Mr. Lucky so-and-so?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Might make a piano player someday, you know.
Yeah.
You ever thought of taking it up as a career? Yeah,
I finally found the right melody.
I thought you had rearranged it for time.
Hey, I found it.
Birds in every tree, they sing so tenderly. I know.
That'd make a good rock and roll tune.
Yeah. Try it.
Oh, rock and roll? Yeah. Oh, this is not really rock and roll.
Well, you're rocking, man, anyway. Dude.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with it, you know.
No, no, no.
Some of my best tunes have been used in rock and roll.
How many tunes?
Little thing, you know. The title of this number is Happy-Go-Lucky Local. now, the script is not written by Helen McNamara. She only wrote the clean part. Oh, I left that one. I don't know why I changed the key. The other key is simpler.
Rose the bass player, that's why.
Huh?
Rose the bass player.
Oh, yeah. Running out of tape? Sam Woodyard. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a great pleasure visiting with you. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. You have been...
That's not it.